Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Employees and employers being urged to pay close attention to judgments regarding vaccination against COVID-19. Hart NSTA chairman resigns. And later in sports, ASAJ president considers compensation for overseas swimmers who did not get to compete at cancelled swim meet. I'm Anthony Lugg. Here are the details. Up first this afternoon, employees and employers are being urged to pay close attention to judgments regarding vaccination against COVID-19 and seek legal advice before proceeding to court. This comes as the Supreme Court refused the application filed on behalf of employees from CARMED and Digicel who were seeking approval to block the enforcement of both companies' COVID vaccine policy. Javon Keys has more.
4 CARMED employees and a Digicel employee sought constitutional relief and injunctions to prevent the vaccine policies from being imposed against them at their workplaces until trial. But in both judgments, the Supreme Court dismissed the constitutional aspect, indicating that alternative remedies were available.
The learned judge, Justice Sonia Windblair, refused the employee's application for an injunction pending the trial of the claim. That means that the employees would either have to comply with the vaccination policy until trial, or they may face sanctions as stated in that policy document.
The employees will now have to comply with the requirements for COVID-19 vaccination or routine testing at their expense pending trial. There's a belief that their bodily integrity is being infringed upon.
That's reason we are concerned as to how the issues having to do with those who have decided that they do not want to have their bodily integrity, as some persons call it, interfered with by them being, as they see it, being forced to take the vaccine.
The employees also protested having to provide weekly negative COVID-19 test results, but attorney Gavin Goff, who represented CARMED, argued that the choices taken by the employees had their consequences.
But they consider the testing also to be violating their body autonomy. They consider it to be a medical procedure which they can't be forced to do. And I can't understand how we could be in a global pandemic and you are saying that, you can't force me to do a medical procedure in the form of a COVID-19 test. I just don't understand.
In addition, the court was not convinced that an injunction was necessary based on the circumstances of both cases. Mr. Goff says the judgments are useful and he's appealing to those who are planning to start court action to take heed. Javon Keys, TVJ News.
The chairman of the board of the Hart NSTA Trust has resigned. Edward Gabadon submitted his resignation on Friday. It comes following questions raised about a conflict of interest between his technology-based company Syncon and the Service and Training Institute. O'Shane Masters has more in this report.
The Hart NSTA Trust has been in the spotlight following the revelation that $5.6 million was spent on a staff retreat, a figure the opposition described as excessive. However, that was not the only issue raised. Opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson also raised questions about contracts which were awarded to a company which was owned by Edward Gabadon, who at the time was board chairman. Northwest Manchester Member of Parliament Michael Phillips in Parliament on December 14 read a report from the legal department of the Hart NSTA Trust, which was directed to the PAAC, which said that up to February 20, 2021, there was no declaration of interest in any company by the chairman, Mr. Gabadon. But in his resignation letter to Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Friday, Mr. Gabadon said he declared his affiliation and interest in Syncon, the company at the heart of a conflict of interest claim from 2018. He further noted that his technology-based company has been working across administrations and with the Hart NSTA Trust for over a decade. As to the awarding of contracts, Mr. Gabadon noted that those procurements were below the threshold, which would need approval of the board, so he was not part of the discussions. He also noted that he was not a member of the procurement subcommittee of the board. As for the contract that raised the red flag, Mr. Gabardon said that procurement was aborted. He said when the query was made regarding the contract, he recused himself, given that he was a chief executive officer of Syncon and chairman of the board of Heart NSTA Trust. He's adamant that all the requisite procedures and procurement guidelines were followed by the institution. A release last night from the Office of the Prime Minister said a new chairman for the Heart NSTA Trust will be appointed soon. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The World Health Organization, WHO, has urged people to cancel some of their holiday plans to protect public health as the Omicron variant spreads globally. The WHO head says difficult decisions must be made. He told a news conference yesterday there was no evidence that Omicron is spreading significantly faster than the Delta strain.
All of us want to spend time with friends and family. All of us want to get back to normal. The fastest way to do this is for all of us, leaders and individuals, to make the difficult decisions that must be made to protect ourselves and others. In some cases, that will mean canceling or delaying events, just as we have had to cancel the reception we plan to have with you today. But an event cancelled is better than a life cancelled.
And to some COVID stats now, one more Jamaican has died from the coronavirus. The victim is a 79-year-old man from St. Mary. His death increases the country's overall death toll to 2,450. Jamaica recorded 38 new COVID-19 cases from 871 test samples, bringing the total caseload to 92,127. Now, majority of the new cases are from St. James, St. Mary, and the corporate area. The positivity rate is 4.6%. Hospitalizations continue to be below 100. 97 people are being treated for the virus in hospitals across the island. 11 of the patients are severely ill, while another 2 are in critical condition. There are 442 active cases on the island. In the meantime, 296 more people recovered from the respiratory illness, pushing the overall recovery count to 64,300. And it's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to Midday News and thanks for staying with us. 2 employees of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, KSAMC, have been interdicted pending an investigation into building and planning approvals by the corporation. The Local Government Services Commission advised the KSAMC's Chief Executive Officer Robert Hill that Field Inspector Sean Martin and Assistant Building Surveyor Calvert Sutherland have been sent on leave with full salary. Their leave takes effect today. The KSAMC and the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, have been criticized by the Supreme Court for their lack of oversight of a development on Birdsucker Drive in St. Andrew. And head of the St. Catherine South Police, Superintendent Christopher Phillips, says the curfew in Gregory Park, Portmore, will be extended as criminal activities continue in the area. He says a foot patrol police team found a gun in the area this morning.
When they came upon a group of men who ran and seen the police, a search of the area, we found a Remington shotgun with 6 12-gauge cartridge in that community. It's an indication of the kind of environment that we are operating in, where persons are now arming themselves.
He's appealing to residents, especially business operators, to be patient with the police as they try to take the criminals off the streets. Meanwhile, he says the police have some persons of interest in the beheading on the weekend.
Investigation continues because whilst we have some persons of interest, we really want to, pin it down to the main perpetrators.
The headless body of a man known as Rashid was found after an attack on a group of men in a yard in a section of Gregory Park known as Mexico. The police think it's a reprisal carried out by rivaling gangs in the area. And it's now time for the Business Minute.
Television Jamaica, TVJ, is the first Caribbean broadcaster to join global TV organization, the Advanced Television Systems Committee, ATSC. TVJ's membership is one of the many moves the station is now undertaking as it embarks on its transition from analog to the digital ATSC 3.0 transmission of its signal, as was mandated by the government in January of this year. According to Claire Grant, General Manager, Radio and Television Jamaica Limited, members of the Archer Gleaner Communications Group, the implementation of ATSC 3.0 is a game changer for the television industry and Jamaica. Mrs. Grant says when the rollout of ATSC 3.0 is complete, Jamaicans will access more television channels, more local content, better quality picture, better quality sound, better access to TV signals inside buildings, among other things. Following a tax-free shopping day for citizens in Barbados on Monday, Executive Director at the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, Dr. Damien King, has described the move as unprogressive. Barbadians were exempted from paying the legislated 17.5% value-added tax on goods and higher purchase sales. The move was aimed at easing the burden on shoppers who have been financially challenged over the past few years. But Dr. King asserted that good tax policies should be uniform and predictable. He said it is not progressive and that those who can afford to spend more will get the largest amount of the benefit, and relief should go to those who need it the most. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And we go now to a look at the top regional and international stories. Here's Sandy Williams.
In regional news, Bermuda's Health Minister Kim Wilson has warned Bermudians against complacency ahead of the Christmas holidays after officials logged more than 100 new cases of COVID-19, with the new Omicron variant spreading quickly. Health officials say active cases have more than doubled since the last update, up to 152 from the 62 confirmed on Thursday. There were 74 new cases of Omicron variant, up from 31 reported last week. The Delta variant accounted for 15 cases. One victim is in hospital but not in intensive care. On the international scene in India, an Indian man who went to court to complain about Prime Minister Narendra Modi promoting himself as the face of the nation's COVID-19 vaccination drive has walked away with a fine for wasting the judge's time. India's Hindu nationalist Prime Minister has been the focus of an enormous advertising blitz, touting his government's triumph in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. Modi's image has been plastered on billboards and even on the side of passenger planes, alongside a message celebrating India's recent milestone of 1 billion administered vaccination doses. The government has justified using Modi as the face of the media campaign, with the junior health minister telling Parliament in August that it created awareness about coronavirus prevention. According to official data, India has recorded more than 477,000 confirmed COVID-19 deaths, more than any other country except the United States and Brazil. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And we head now to a quick break. When we return, Jordan Fort will have the Midday Sports Report.
Welcome back. It's now time for the Midday Sports. There is concern by some stakeholders about the 2022 season for some of the nation's swimmers after the ASAJ Christmas Open swim meet was cancelled on Monday. The 4-day meet was called off after 2 days after a filtration problem at the National Aquatic Centre caused discoloration of the pool, making it unsafe for swimmers to compete. National coach and head coach of Tornadoes Swim Club, Wendy Lee, says it was particularly unfair to the swimmers who had to travel from abroad.
The parents have spent money, the kids have invested times, the coaches have prepared their athletes. This was the only opportunity for some of the swimmers, our national representatives, to set the qualifying times they need to perform for the country of Jamaica in 2022. Now we have to completely reset our program.
ASAJ President Martin Lin has, however, said that the association may consider some sort of compensation for swimmers who incurred expenses without being able to compete.
I'm not saying that it's not great disappointment. I'm not saying that, there shouldn't be, again, something to look at going forward. And perhaps we will look at something, recompense or so. But at this point in time, it happened. It's not something that we anticipated. Certainly we wouldn't be closing a meet like this.
Tennis Jamaica President John Azar says it was important to have staged the recent All Jamaica Open Tennis Championship as they prepare for a busy 2022 season. The senior and amateur titles have so far been decided, with the junior titles to be contested on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm extremely pleased not only to have hosted an extremely successful senior and amateur part of the All Jamaica, but to have done so under the safest conditions as relating to COVID. The tournament was amazing. I'd rather people hear that from others than me, but it really was an excellent week of tennis. The competition was great, the camaraderie was great, seeing people out around the tennis courts and that electric vibe.
Number 1 seed Catherine Dibbs took the women's singles title, beating Cheyenne Kamika 6-3, 6-1 in Saturday's final.
I do think that I executed well. During the first part I was a bit nervous, so that's why I didn't do as well, but I got into my groove and I won, so.
Top men's seed Roland Randy Phillips took care of business, taking the singles title in straight sets over Dwayne Pagon 6-1, 6-1. The last semi-final spot in the Issa da Costa Cup competition will be decided this afternoon, with a quarter-final round action from Group F following defending champions Clarendon College taking on McGraw High at Stets. Clarendon College, who are leading Group 3 on 6 points, need only a point to secure qualification, while McGraw are out of contention. Second placed and former champions Cornwall College oppose Manchester High at Green Pond. Now, Cornwall College can advance if they win and Clarendon College lose. However, a draw for Cornwall will put them in the Ben Francis Cup knockout competition. Manchester High, who are two-time beaten Ben Francis Cup finalists, must win to have any chance of advancing to either competition. Both matches kick off at 3 p.m. And that's it then for your midday sports. Anthony?
All right, thank you very much, Jordan. And that's the Midday News. I'm Anthony Lugg. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.